Hello.
Hello there.
Hello. Hi, Lowry.
Hi there. How is everybody today?
Good, and you?
Good.
Nice to see the real you, Lowry.
I figured out that what it is if I had been turning on the camera first before I turned on the meeting, and that brought up that high school photo of me. And if I just turn on the meeting, then the camera works. So
Good.
you get a chance to see my bald head here.
That's all right. The real you.
Yes.
Live and in person.
There we go. Lowry, how is it down there? Did you have some storms earlier in the week? Any rain?
We had some rain. It's been what the folks who are here all the time told us was that it was a dry winter.
Yeah.
And that Mother Nature's kind of catching up now. So we've probably had 2 storms a week. And last year we didn't have that many storms a week until we got to the end of May.
Interesting.
So maybe, it's just Mother Nature getting caught back up on rainfall. But it's, it blows, but it's windy and it's rainy, but nothing happens. Because we're far enough inland that you never get any big storms here.
Interesting.
Yeah. And all the houses are short, so.
We're supposed to be getting one. We had, where I am, up at the top of the hill on Elm Street, we had about a 5-minute heavy rain, and now it's stopped. So.
Yeah. And did you have snow over the weekend?
No.
Not here.
Not here.
Oh.
Northeast. Not here.
Up in the mountains, because I was talking to a friend of mine in the Finger Lakes, and they had snow today.
Yeah, I have a friend in Ohio, Cleveland area, and she got 5 to 6 inches of snow overnight and this morning.
Yeah, it's amazing that Cleveland and Erie and Buffalo are still cities, that they still exist.
That mean people still live there?
Yeah, with the weather being so nasty.
Our friends actually have been there about 25 years, and they really, really want to come back east.
Yeah, well, my sister's lived in Erie for probably 45 years, and that's where they work. And that's where the kids are. So they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But boy, it's tough to live in that environment, especially as you get older.
Hi, Karen.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Karen.
Hi.
I know that we're not going to have Nancy Cottle Johnson. She called a little while ago. She's not well, and Jim Hurd is prepping for surgery tomorrow morning.
No.
Yeah, he's having some work done on his knee. Injured his knee, maybe 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, and it hasn't been right, and he's going to have surgery on it tomorrow morning.
Too bad.
Yeah, he was climbing out. He climbs up Mount Batty like 3 times a week, I think. And
wow.
Yeah,
might be a while.
And one of his companions is, I think, 85 or some such age. It's remarkable. And he told me he was about halfway. He was about halfway up the mountain, and something happened with his knee, and he fell, and he ended up having to walk down the mountain backwards as far as he could. And then his 85-year-old companion went and got the ranger, and they hauled him off, and he was okay for a while. But I guess it's something that just maybe was less inflamed, but still needed attention.
Yeah, he's not been comfortable for quite a while.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Haven't heard from anybody else.
Everybody had their shots?
Yes.
Yes.
Whose dogs? Yours?
Mine.
Oh.
Mine, and they're in the other room, and the door is shut, but they get excited when they hear noises.
Oh.
And, hey, hang on a second. Let me see if I can do
What
something.
kind of dogs are they? Oops. Hold on. Never mind.
I think one is a Labradoodle. I'm not sure if both are Labradoodles, but I know one of them is. I've seen a picture of them, but I couldn't tell which one of them was because he had a fair amount of hair here and then no hair. And so like he'd had a summer cut, so you couldn't quite tell what it was.
Yeah. So what about John? Is he coming?
I haven't heard from John. Has anybody talked or seen?
Nothing.
I saw him last weekend, and he was undecided. And I
So
told him he had to.
maybe
I
I
said,
need to
"You
make
gotta
a
do
phone
this."
call. Because
Is he
everybody's
unhappy
in,
about something?
go ahead, Jean.
Is he unhappy about something? Is that why he hasn't been coming, or just he's busy or whatever?
I don't know.
He
We didn't
struggles. He
delve
struggles
into
with
it.
Zoom. Yeah, he struggles with Zoom, I think.
But maybe I need to
Yeah,
talk to
but
him.
he does not like this kind of meeting at all. It's frustrating to him.
Well, I don't think it's ideal, but everybody's input is valuable. And I need to say that to him and to Bob Oxton. I mean, we want to hear. Hopefully
Yep.
Mark will join us this time. You know, we don't have a lot of super heavy things to discuss tonight, but still everybody's point of view is needed, which is why
Yes.
there's all of us on this group.
Yep,
Yes, we need a
absolutely.
quorum so we can officially do something.
Right, we need one more.
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna get it. Unless Mark shows up. Does anybody call him? Didn't he oversleep one time?
Yeah, last
Last time.
meeting, he fell asleep in his chair.
Waiting for the meeting to start.
Give him a ring and wake him up.
I could do that.
Oh, here he is.
Yes,
Oh,
there
there
he
he
is.
is.
Oh, there he is.
Hey, Mark, hi.
He's awake.
He's
Good.
connecting.
I was just about to call you, so thank you.
There he is. No, it's still connecting. That's bizarre.
You haven't connected to audio yet, Mark, if you can hear us. Mark, can you hear me?
No.
Let's see.
And anybody know sign language? Mark, hold up a sign. Mark, can you hear me?
Ask to
He's still
unmute.
connecting.
He
There we go,
said
here.
connect audio, and I got to unmute him.
Mark,
Ask to unmute, which I've done. I don't know how that,
I think I just unmuted.
You're all set
There he
now.
is. We
Great.
can hear him.
thank you so much. All right, we'll get going. First item on our agenda is approval of the minutes of 3/24. And I think, Larry, you submitted a change on page 2, the second paragraph, the first sentence. The commission members recommended setting a few rules regarding, it should be the budget committee meetings, not nominating committee.
Right, right.
Does anybody have
Thank
anything
you.
else?
mm-hmm. Yeah, with that change, I vote to approve the minutes.
Second,
I'll second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Well, Mark can't vote because he wasn't there.
Okay, but we
Okay.
have, so minutes, we will say the minutes are approved. Thank you, with the change to budget committee from nominating committee. Hopefully you all got the email. I think Bob copied you all in his response to me when I sent him the draft of emergency funding that we were going to put in the management of the budget section in Article 6. And Bob's concern was that 0.5% was not enough. I then was able to have a meeting with Audra last week, and she echoed that, but she put it sort of in perspective. When you think of 0.5% is going to be under $50,000, she said a couple of things to me. One was the emergency funding they got from the state. When the emergency was declared, they got $153,000 to help with the COVID, sort of preparation and securing, making things safe. She said that was gone in a flash, that between the extra hours of personnel having to clean the equipment, all the barriers, the plexiglass barriers they put in offices, also for the election, the PPE for the staff, the sanitizing stuff for sanitizing surfaces, but hand sanitizer, in the hours of the personnel. She said it was gone in a flash. So she said that's how quickly that kind of money could go away in this kind of an instance. And then she told me that it would be, this emergency funding would be the funding of last resort. That before they even went to something like this, they would do what they would look at how much they have in contingency, that they would look at if it's in a specific department, what may be in that department's reserves, and look what they could move, what monies they could move within a department. That something like this would not be done right off the bat, but it would be the last resort. So I put that forward as her response, and she thought that it really needed to be 1.5% to 2%. The 2% being the ceiling on what could be approved for emergency funding. She didn't have anything negative to say about 4 out of the 5 select board members needing to approve it, nor anything negative about having a public hearing whenever practicable. So she seemed to be in line with it as long as the percentage was increased a bit. So that's the feedback I've gotten. Lowry, I think you sent me a note about it.
Right. To me, 0.5% is such a piddly little amount of money that if that got to be the point where we needed that, they could find it somewhere else. I mean, you could almost put it on a credit card and pay for it later. So I would think that the 1.5% makes sense, especially if we're going to be of last resort. That it's likely if we have a real emergency, it's going to be a weather or a health-related emergency where we're likely to get state or federal funding. So I'm content. I think we could trust the select board having a very open checkbook up to 1.5%. Otherwise, I don't think we should elect them. But on the approval, I think what it should say is we need the affirmative votes of 4 select people, not 4 out of the 5. Because then all of a sudden, if we only have 4 select board members, let's say we have a Leonard situation again, one of the select board members die and we only have 4, then I think what you want is the super majority. So you just say you need to have the affirmation of 4 select board members to be able to do this. You don't want it to be
a fraction and somebody to try and do that calculation.
Right. So. Yeah. Or if only 3 can come to the meeting because maybe 2 or wherever out of town or something. I think we should say we want to have affirmative votes of 4 people to approve the emergency.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah. To what Laurie said about we should trust the select board, why do we elect them? We're talking about those that are sitting there right now. This is going to change soon. I don't think we should leave it quite so open-ended. It just doesn't feel comfortable. When we say emergency, is there any parameters that we could put with that to make sure that it isn't used for other things?
Well, they do have to declare what the emergency is. I mean, they have to state, there has to be sort of a finding of fact that there is one. We could, that's not a bad idea.
And they also have to make best efforts to have a public hearing.
Now, this says to the extent practicable. Do you think that language ought to be tightened up?
I think so. I'm thinking about something, and I'm flying by the seat of my pants here because I haven't really thought it through, but some sort of wording that adds in there for reasons of public health, public safety, just 2, 3, 4 items that say it's for this and you can't use it for anything else.
It actually does say for public health, safety, or welfare.
Okay.
Well, why don't we require a public hearing? I mean, we had a public hearing to go on the energy saving program. It was, it was the Snow Bowl. It was a completely new format, but it was a public hearing. So I can't imagine that we would ever have, unless the atomic bomb hit Camden, I can't imagine a condition where we would not be able to hold a public hearing.
And they've had public hearings at the planning board, and they've had public hearings on the select board level via Zoom. And whether or not we love them or not, unless we're all out of electricity and the internet's down, you could even do partial in person and partial electronic public hearing. So it's not like, unless the whole grid's down. And I don't think if the grid's down, they're going to be meeting anyway. There'll be no heat. Okie doke. So instead of saying to the extent practicable, we could just say a public hearing shall be held on 7 days posted notice prior to said authorization.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Now, and that way the public can come and say, explain to us why this is an emergency.
Okay, so Lowry, you're suggesting 1.5%?
I'd be comfortable with that. I'd be interested in what the other members of the group feel, but I think that that's a reasonable level, because 0.5% just seems terribly piddly to me.
It's just 1.5% of the town budget, not including the school budget, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. I agree with Larry.
Mark?
What does that number come out to now?
Well, let's see. Oh, shoot. I left my calculator in the other room. Well, if 1% is 95,000,
Yes,
so we're
it's
talking
it's
about 140,000.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Do would somebody like to make a motion? I'll make a motion. I think chairs can make motions. I move that on section 6.1, emergency funding, we make the following revisions: an affirmative vote of at least 4 select board members, and the percentage shall not exceed 1.5%. And in 2, delete the words "to the extent practicable," which requires a public hearing. So number 2 would start with "a public hearing shall be held." That's my motion.
I'd second that with a question. And the question is, do we need to say, per Karen's comment, do we need to say that it's 1.5% of the town portion of the budget?
Well, it does say
or
municipal
does it say-
operating budget exclusive of school.
Okay. Okay.
But what about county?
It
Do we
doesn't
have
say,
the county budget?
Yeah. Because that's what, 15% of the overall or thereabouts?
Yeah. no, but we contribute to that county budget, so that
Right.
should,
Exclusive of school and county
yes.
budget?
Yeah, that's better.
So we'll add that word. We can.
Yep.
I'll amend my motion.
I'll
Okay.
amend my second.
Any other discussion? All
Nope.
those in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, I have to withdraw. I'm sorry, Nancy Cottle Johnson wanted me to say that she's not in favor of this. She's not here to vote, but she's concerned that if it's there, they'll use it. So I'm sorry, I forgot to say that.
Okay, well, we can still vote.
You can still vote.
Okay. Because technically that's interesting that she has that opinion, but it doesn't count because she's not here,
Right.
unless she gave you a proxy.
No. But I did say I would
Yeah.
tell you all that she has reservations and thinks if it's there, it'll get used.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. So now I'll take the vote again. All those in favor of the motion as amended? Okay, that's 5-0.
Yeah,
Yep.
everybody put their hands.
Thank you.
I have a question
Sure, Mark.
and a couple of comments possibly. One, did you hear what the situation is with Bill Kelly, where he has resigned at Belfast, and our agreement is with Belfast on his contract. Have we
That's
heard
correct.
anything in regards to that?
I have not heard anything other than what you said. I know that Belfast reimburses us like 66% of the fee. So I don't know if they changed that in the budget. And I didn't watch the meeting last night. I was occupied. So I don't know when the select board had the public hearing on the budget, if that was brought up or not.
Okay. That brings me up to my kind of second point here. We were asked a couple months ago by the selectmen, or the selectmen presented to the town, that all committees should stand down. And we kind of discussed it and wanted to continue on. But at this point in time, I had a short conversation with John French the other day. He is concerned that we are not putting words in his mouth, and he's not here to say anything, but he is concerned that we're continuing on without the support of the selectmen. And
They made an exception for boards and commissions.
yeah,
And
I still have a feeling that
in their announcement, in their discussion, they exempted from the hiatus boards, which means planning board, zoning board, and commissions, which would mean the charter commission, and if there's still a conservation commission. So we were exempted from being on hold.
okay.
Yeah,
I still feel that we may have a little kind of a dilemma in the fact that we've reached a point where we have had zero public input on what we've been doing.
Mhm.
And I'm
That's
not
coming
sure
up.
as we have.
That's coming up in later on the agenda, the future of in-person public sessions. So we'll get to that, Mark. We'll get to that issue.
Okay, but
Certainly Bob's been perfectly aware that we're having meetings.
mhm,
And he's gotten, copies of the agenda, and, whatever we have been talking about, he sees the minutes. So, I mean, he knows but we're not doing, other than maybe this emergency funding, which actually started before they asked us not to do anything substantive. I mean, we were talking about this before they said, don't do anything substantive till you can have public sessions. We haven't made any drastic changes.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping that, and I had a conversation, well, we'll talk about this when we get to number 4, or we can just,
well, I think I've made my point. I think that we may be to the point where we have to kind of take a little hiatus and wait until we can start doing things with full blessings.
well,
So-
I think we're there. Well, I think we're almost there. What we're
Mhm.
doing now, what's left now is just fine tuning some things. And I think we're there, Mark.
Okay.
And now we just have to wait till we get clearance for in-person sessions where people who aren't comfortable participating by Zoom can come, for instance, to the Opera House. So I'll just go ahead and move on to number 4. I talked with
Okay.
Dave Morrison today and asked him about what the capacity situation would be at the Opera House, because towards the end of May, and if things don't change, the governor has said that facilities can operate at 75% capacity while still maintaining 6 feet social distancing. And Dave Morrison said, at this point, he believes that is 85 to perhaps 100 people. He thinks probably more like 85. So if the select board then go along with that, it is possible in June that we could start having public information sessions. We can also, I've talked to Janice, she can host, the town website can host that PowerPoint presentation, which will need a little updating now, that has the highlights of the major changes and certainly the full draft, which will have draft written all over it. And I have yet to talk to her and Audra about the ability of printing out multiple copies to have in the town office and the library out there for the public. So I think we would be able to do that this summer, which means to me that we may, without barring some strange movement to do something drastic with town government, we might be able to get on the November ballot instead of waiting till next year.
Okay, this being an off year in November, it's not going to bring out very many people. Is there any reason why we're shooting for November rather than just gliding into next June, a year from
Not
June?
necessarily, other than if it's had a fair hearing during the summer when most people are here and we've gotten that input,
Mhm.
why not wrap it up as opposed to dragging it out? But, you know, we would have to be playing that by ear, Karen, I think. And if there
Yeah.
is nothing else going on the November ballot, if there aren't zoning ordinance changes or the any Lyman Morris things, maybe there wouldn't be much reason to have a town ballot for just this. So there
Right.
would be reasons not to do it perhaps, but I would like
So
to
we're not
have
making
us
a
think about an
decision.
end date.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
I think some of it is we're clearly already having difficulty having members participate.
Uh-huh.
Some people are getting maybe worn out, no longer interested, whatever it might be, but they're not here. And the longer this drags on, the fewer faces and boxes we will see. People will just be busy doing other stuff again. And Lord knows none of us are getting any younger. You know, there may come a time when this meeting just isn't very functional. And if people choose not to come and vote, then they choose not to come and vote. So be it. You know, we can advertise all we want, but if only, how many public hearings or town meetings have we all been to where there've been 30 people there, and they vote? That's one of the, it's a blessing and a bane of town meetings. Is you get a lot of people when people are excited about the topic, and when they're not, nobody comes.
Yeah, and I think we have to keep that in mind. You know, how do the citizens here operate? And perhaps maybe they've changed a little bit. I mean, I think there was an incredible turnout in February at the Snow Bowl. I was
Yes.
I was really, really impressed with the effort that people made to go, as well as the effort the town made to make that happen.
Mhm.
So we'll probably have to see how the response goes. To not belabor the point, but if we're getting good feedback and we think we need to have more sessions to have more discussions, then maybe we will. But if it goes as so many things do in this community, I would rather wrap it up if we feel like we've exhausted the opportunities for people to comment.
When do we have to have the final version to the selectmen for the
It would be
article?
March of next year. But
No,
if
no,
it
no, if we're
were,
going to go on the November ballot.
it would be like mid-September.
Okay.
Which, unless we were making wholesale changes,
Should be okay, really.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is,
And
I
it's
think
like-
this is 85% there.
And the select board will be quick because they don't get to decide whether or not it goes on the ballot.
Yeah, that's true. They don't.
They just bless it and say it's going on the ballot.
Mhm.
That's the nature of our work group.
Are we going to, are they going to require we have a work session with them to explain what we've done? Or are we just saying, here it is, take it or
We
leave it?
we can have another work session before we launch into the general public sessions. I don't have any problem with doing that at all. I think that would be a good idea. We could even do it in showing them the PowerPoint presentation once it's updated to reflect these changes, and use that as a basis for our discussion with the select board, which would be something
I
we
think
would use as the basis of an informational public meeting. So I think, Mark,
I
that's
think
a
that's a-
very good suggestion. We need to keep that in mind, that we should try to schedule that before we have any public input sessions.
And I think too, we should remember, we're going to have two new select people,
Mhm.
That's right. we will.
select board members. There'll be two new ones, and we would like to hear their views, but I think it's important that they understand that we've been working on this for a few years and already gathered information. And every time there's a new election, we can't rewrite the thing because a new person has a new opinion.
Mhm.
So
It
we'll have
would
to
be
keep
nice
our
once
eyes.
we know who,
I'm sorry, Jean?
once we know who the new select people are. I don't remember the date of the town meeting, that we see that they get a copy in advance of any, gathering we might have with selectmen, or if we've already met with this group of selectmen, make an effort to talk to them or have them come or just ask us questions if they have, so they're brought up to speed.
Yeah, June 8th is election.
Oh, is there any reason why, if we have a meeting with the select board, that we can't invite the 4 candidates as well? Because nobody's making any decisions, it's just input.
Yeah, if we have it before the election, that's a great idea. And it would be really nice to be able to have that in person.
Yes, oh, very definitely.
19 people on Zoom does not work for me.
It's chaotic. I did that at Thanksgiving, no thank you.
And that was for fun.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Okay,
So I
Joe.
suggest we invite
Unfortunately,
the
I'm finding that very
candidates.
little on Zoom works.
Okay, I'm just making some notes. So I think some of this is play by ear, but what we could do is sort of, this is how we would like to approach it as soon as particularly the select board says, yes, we can all get together in the Opera House, meaning the select board and possibly candidates and the commission, to have another work session.
Yeah, I think there's enough room to space everybody.
Yeah.
Does the select board really get to decide whether or not they want to follow the governor's recommended procedures?
I mean, can they be more strict than the governors?
Yeah,
They have been.
They're opening up the Opera House this week. I think Gordon Bach kicks it off either.
But
the
it's
end
still
of this-
45
it's
people.
45 people.
Yeah, but we're talking about just the select board, us, and possibly the candidates. That's not
Yeah, I don't-
45 people.
I don't think that would be a problem even now.
It shouldn't be. You're right.
No.
That shouldn't be. Okey doke. So we'll keep that on the burner and looking forward to maybe being able to do that before the end of May. Okay, do we feel comfortable going on to number 3, notes on the new draft and any feedback? I just tried to sort of briefly note what the changes were since our last meeting, and the first one in Article 1, we talked a while about sort of the order of things under the heading of the Charter of Town of Camden. And it was suggested we do some things in bullets. And I tried it, and it didn't seem to work. So I looked at some other charters again, and that opening paragraph that is now on page 1 is sort of always what's in the very front, introducing the charter.
Mhm.
And I did find the date of the first charter, because I think it was Jean who made a comment about we should put that in and when is it? And I actually found it in the last charter. At the very, in the notes of the charter we're revising, it had an historical note of when the first charter was written. So I was able to add that.
Thank you. No, I think what you've done here, putting it in just this little separate paragraph is fine.
Okay.
The 1925 date and the 1934 date, and it's enough. It just, it's there and fine.
Ooh, we lost somebody. We lost
Mark.
Mark. And then the other thing maybe that's his phone.
No, that's mine.
Oh. Do you need to get it?
Yeah. So,
Probably somebody trying to sell you a car warranty and a car you don't own anymore.
Yeah, I know. Don't you love this?
My husband now answers the phone when those calls and says, we don't drive anymore. They took away our licenses. So the other thing I did when I was looking at this, I split out the petitions because I just thought it was lost. As I said in the note, I thought they were lost. Welcome back, Mark. Well,
Oh.
wait,
He's
Muted.
still muted.
you're muted, Mark.
There you go. I think it was my computer. I think my lights blinked here for a minute.
Oh,
So
Oh,
I know it was pouring here a minute ago, so.
So does anybody have any issues with my having split that out?
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's
I think
good.
it's important
Good.
enough that people need to be able to find it.
Yeah.
It was lost even more in the previous draft, hidden in, general provisions. So Article 2.07 just reflects that sort of clarifying and briefer information from Bill Kelly on the ceremonial powers of the select board chair.
0.07, you said?
2.07,
Yes, okay.
Number 3.
yeah, number 3. Um, 2.16 is also just reflecting Bill's sort of simpler language. And I think this, because it doesn't say that the town clerk has to be the one writing them up, also means that all they need to do is he or she, whomever it is, needs to authenticate it, and we need to make sure that there's a copy. Does everybody know what I mean by hiring eCode 360? They're a service that standardizes and puts in a standardized format, which is sort of the format we've adopted here. And it's a web-based or cloud-based place for cities and towns. All their codes, their charters, their zoning ordinances, their police ordinance, whatever, is all standardized in a standard format, and they maintain that. Once it gets converted, then it'll be housed, there'll be a link from the website. It'll be housed out there. And actually Bar Harbor, I've seen their number of our towns in Maine. They're like 8 or 10 towns in Maine that already use this service. It's used throughout the whole country. And Bar Harbor is the one I've looked at the most. That's sort of how I found them. So, yeah.
I think that I heard at one of the select board meetings, them talking about it.
Yeah, they approved it 2 meetings
Okay,
ago.
I thought I heard them talking about it at one point in time and getting the town involved in it, so.
So everything will be standardized, have the same formats. It's searchable. You can print it. You can do search by phrase. So it's a very accessible way of having your code. And that sort of handles the problem of section 2.17 that says the codification of ordinances in the Camden Code that's really never been done. So that'll take care of that aspect of the charter. It'll fulfill
Okay.
it.
And I think too, for security purposes, it's stored remotely and electronically. So if the town hall burns down, we still have access to copies without difficulty.
Yes.
So the next update was in Article 6. I had gone off the rails and suggested a different budget nominating
Yeah, you got Article
committee the
4,
last
Deb.
time, and you straightened me out.
You got number 4 first. You skipped.
Oh,
4.
number 4, did I miss 4?
Article
Oh,
4.
okay.
4.04.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Let me flip. Yeah, it's just that we don't call it the Personnel Board. I'm actually changing the heading to say Personnel Committee, and then commenting about how they transition.
Just a little fussy thing is, should we line through advisory on the agenda so somebody doesn't come back and said, hey, on the agenda it was going to be
Oh,
Personnel Advisory Committee. How did it get to be Personnel Committee?
well, then let's make a note in the minutes that the agenda was an error. Because as you commented, Lowry, all committees are advisory.
Yep.
And that's redundant.
And you've repeated yourself in the text of it where it says personnel board again. If you're dropping the word board in the title, you should drop the word board in the text as well and
Right.
put committee in there.
Wait, except you know what's wrong, what I'm not making clear, and this is a good point you're raising, Mark. We have 3 members elected to the personnel board as it exists now. It's called a personnel board now. So I need to make that clear, Mark, because you're absolutely right. It sounds like it's being inconsistent.
Okay.
Um,
So if it's technically the personnel board you've been elected to, why are you changing the title changing it from board to committee in the title of the section?
Trying to reflect that the board is becoming a committee.
Yeah,
But if
I
it's
thought that was
called
clear.
one thing in one spot and one thing in another, that's confusing.
Well, maybe it should say, as the date of the adoption of this charter, each of the 3 members elected by the town voters to the currently existing
Right.
personnel board.
How about if we just leave it as board and not get that nitpicky about what it's called?
The reason, Mark, is that boards make decisions, committees make recommendations. And under the new program, the Personnel Board will strictly make recommendations and offer advice at the request of the select board or the town's manager, I believe. That they don't have to do things independently as they did in the past and make decisions and offer rulings. They just offer advice when called upon.
Okay.
Maybe it would make it clearer if section 4.04, we still kept it personnel committee, but we called the paragraph transition, or transition from personnel board to personnel committee. And then we title that section, that paragraph, transition. Would that be helpful? That we're moving from a board to a committee?
Yes.
Yes, that'd be more clear.
Description.
So should the section be called transition of personnel board to personnel committee? Have that as the title of the section?
That's fine.
That makes more sense now that I've heard, Lowry's definition of the difference between the two.
In that last sentence under 4.04, do you want to also bold the word committee on that last sentence at the end?
Make it bold?
Right. Because that's part of the changes. It's bold. I mean, that's what we're changing to.
Oh, you mean for the draft purposes?
Right. So the select board may then make appointments to fill the vacancies. Well, that's in bold, some of those words.
Oh, I think that's just the printing.
Oh, okay. Well, if you look at the word personnel and the word committee, it definitely is a difference.
Yeah, the committees should be in black. It's in blue, so it really does
blue,
look
yeah.
lighter.
I'll see what you're saying. Okay. Here it looks
Yeah.
like a light blue black. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Section 4.04, transition of personnel board to personnel committee. As of the date of the adoption of this charter, each of the 3 members elected to the town voters to the currently existing personnel board and serving at the time of the adoption of this charter shall serve until the expiration of their terms. The board may then make appointments to fill the vacancies on the newly appointed
Bouncy?
personnel committee. You know, fine-tune editing is exhausting.
Yeah, but I commend you for doing all of the work on this. You and
Nancy's been real
Nancy
helpful too,
and-
and Jean's been very helpful. It
all the typing and retyping and whatever.
takes a number of eyes, so that's one of the reasons why we all go over these things. So back to or onward to 6. As I started to say, in the last meeting, you all got me back on track, and the nominating committee really is gone. So worked on, C 4.04. That's not right.
Yeah, it should be 6.03.
6.04, sorry, typo. No, it's not.
0.0.
3.
It's
6.03.
6.03.
6.03. We're getting closer.
Okie doke. So see if this works for you all. 3, election. Prospective members will be voted on at the town meeting by secret ballot as provided for in Article 1, 1.02, number 1. Vacancies will be filled based on the number of votes received by each nominee, starting with filling the vacancies for regular members by those receiving the highest votes, then filling any vacancies for alternates. Each year thereafter, a vote will be taken at town meeting to determine new members is required to maintain a total of 11 members, including 2 alternates.
Okay, just,
Okay, that's voted by secret ballot. That means they have to be nominated far enough in advance to be put on the printed ballot.
No, they're not nominated at all, Mark. They fill out a committee interest form, just like if you wanted to be on the harbor committee, and submit it to the town. And there's language in here that says at a date that's established by the town clerk.
Yeah, 6.03, number 1.
It
Camden
still has to be
citizens
done
interested in
time
serving on
to
the,
get on the written ballot, though.
Right. So Katrina's going to say, if you want to be a member of the budget committee, you have to be there by, make up a date, I don't know, April 1 or whatever the date is.
Okay, and what's the provision if they don't have enough names to fill the number of spots?
then what happens, because it's a committee, the select board appoints vacancies on committees like they do now.
Okay, that's the automatic fallback to if
Yeah, the
whoever is
default.
trying to solicit new members for the budget committee each year,
mhm.
you know, they get the right number of people to fill out the interest form, then there's no issue. But if they don't get enough people to fill it out and get on the pre-existing written ballot, then at that point in time, it would be up to the selectmen to, okay, being devil's advocate here, if they, like I say, being devil's advocate, if they say whoever is the one in charge of trying to get them, just says, no, we'll just wait and let the selectmen do it. And they don't
Well-
bother to get. I mean, is that being too picky? Is that being too,
Machiavellian?
yeah,
Good word.
I don't know, good word, I'm not sure.
I think part of the issue is, Mark, that we talked about, that is under the current way the budget committee is established, every year you need to get like 9 or 10 new members,
Right,
okay? Because nobody's allowed to succeed themselves. we've eliminated that, so now people can secede themselves.
Mhm.
And we've also reduced the total body count from what, 22 to 30 down to 11. So the hope is that maybe in any given year, we really are only coming up with 2 or 3 new people.
Okay,
So, because there will be some people, we're having fewer bodies around the table to begin with. And secondly, we expect that some of the people, instead of serving 1 3-year term, may decide to serve 2 3-year terms.
okay. Like I said, I'm just being devil's advocate.
No,
throwing
no.
some things out there. Just out of curiosity, how many were actually there for this year's budget committee?
I didn't watch. I know the select board had to go recruit people.
Okay, I don't know. I never sat in on any of the meetings this year, so.
I didn't either. But they had to go the select board had to go fill the slots.
We go back to section 6.03, number 1.
Yes.
Budget committee must submit, people interested in serving on the budget committee must submit a committee interest form to the town office by the deadline set by the town clerk for inclusion in the town warrant. What inclusion in it? I know what it is, but what inclusion in the town warrant? For their name to be included.
Being listed on the ballot. So should we say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, their name being listed on the ballot.
Yes.
What, you know,
Okay. I was just being too brief, I guess. To submit to the deadline set by the town clerk in order for their name to be included on the ballot.
Right.
okay, thank you.
No, so this is why all these eyes on this is really good. In order for their name to be included on the, I should say, town ballot, I suppose. Period.
What's the difference between the ballot and the warrant?
The warrant has more than the secret ballot. The warrant includes election of a
Oh,
moderator.
okay.
The warrant elects notice of the following meeting and, whatever would be brought up at an open town meeting. So there's
Okay.
more than just the secret ballot.
Doesn't the warrant constitute the whole thing to be presented?
Yes,
Yeah,
And a ballot can be an individual question or election.
correct. Well said.
Excuse me.
Okay. We already talked about the emergency funding.
Mhm.
And in Article 7, growth management. I was wondering, I wasn't clear, excuse me. In 7.04, comprehensive plan and plan committee.
What happened to 6.06? It's yellow highlighted. Are we supposed to
Oh,
look?
keep me on my toes, Karen. 6.06. Oh, I was keeping that highlighted because that's one of the things, just as a memory note,
Okay.
that needs to be a point of discussion. Just don't want it forgotten. So back on 7.04, when you flip the page on page 21, we had talked about a number of different numbers and compositions. And these two options have been in there since we had this discussion in December. And I just wanted your feedback. Should we keep these two options here for the general discussion, both with the select board and with the public? I mean, it's just, we never really came to a conclusion ourselves. And I'm happy by keeping it as options because this is nothing but a draft for discussion.
I would say keep it open. Hear what
Yes,
the
I
people on the
agree.
planning board have to say, hear what the people on the select board have to say.
Yeah,
Okey doke. We'll just leave as is.
Yeah.
I mean, there may be option 3 that could come out of those discussions.
right.
Mhm.
That's all I have on those updates. So our minutes will reflect those changes. And I'll update this on Word. Between now and our next meeting, Jean and Nancy, Jean or Nancy, anybody who has any, as they have a chance to look through this, have any other edits, whether this comma doesn't belong there, or that those words are reversed or whatever, any of those find that, not content edits, before we print another one, so. But I will update it and certainly I can email it to you all rather than giving you a whole nother printed copy after these changes, or do you want to just wait?
I don't need all these pages that we've already agreed to. It just seems like a terrible waste of paper.
Yeah, I'm fine with what we have here.
Okay, so
Yeah, me
once we've
too.
made
Yeah.
the changes and I get any more feedback from Jean and Nancy, make any of those kinds of changes, then I'll just email a copy.
Okay,
And I think we've already talked about the public sessions. Recommendation is we have another work session, hopefully in the Opera House with the select board. If we're able to have one before the June 8th election, invite the 4 candidates for the new select board seats. And I'll keep talking with the town about when it's possible to schedule these kinds of public sessions.
Am I correct that we're losing 2 selectmen,
yeah,
Yes.
Neither Taylor nor Jenna are running again.
Taylor and Jenner? Okay,
So it's Sophie
We-
Romano, who's has turned in the papers, Peter Lindquist, Matt Siegel, who's on the planning board,
okay.
and Parker Gassett, whom I don't know. But I think it's great. We got 4 candidates for 2 seats. I can't remember when anything like that's happened.
I know a couple of them, but don't have a clue on a couple of them too, so.
yeah, I wish they'd step up and tell us what their thoughts are and what it's all about. It would
Yeah,
be nice to
I hope
know.
that'll happen soon. I mean, I know Sophie.
Yeah,
I know that Matt's got a background in, I think he's got the background in internet and high tech and broadband. He's got some knowledge in that, I think. And the other one, somebody
Sophie
told
was
me
on the
has,
budget committee a couple of years ago with me.
has some climate change, environmental experience. And I don't, so, I mean, that's just, barely a sentence about those folks.
I'm assuming that the press will do something, some type of press conference or panel discussion with the new, the nominees.
I would think since we've got 4, that would be really important to have some kind of, we do have some time. Okay, is there anything anybody else wants to bring up? Any suggestions? Before our next meeting, I'll get in touch with, Bob and
Do you
John.
want us to look at your presentation one more time before the meeting?
Oh, the PowerPoint? Well, let me update it with some of these changes because we changed how we number. So I think it'd be confusing if I sent out that PowerPoint presentation again and it doesn't correspond with these section numbers.
Well, I mean, after you do that.
Yeah,
That's
after I do
enough.
that, I'll send that. Good point, Jean. I will revise it and send it out.
Good.
And this is the PowerPoint presentation for what? Just
It
for the
shows
few-
the highlights of the
Information.
changes in the charter. We would use it in the work session with the select board and
Okay.
use it in public information sessions.
Okay,
All right, I will do that. Next meeting.
I have a question here.
Sure.
I see Janice's name on here. Janice, are you sitting here listening to all of this all of the time? Is she actually listening, or is she just set it up and gone?
She'll come back in. She comes and checks in to see if we're still
Okay,
operating. But it would be fine if she were.
yeah, it would be. It would be.
So do we have a preference for a next meeting? We don't have a lot of significant time-consuming things to do between now and then.
Should we go and try to set up a next meeting with selectmen? Select board,
great, yeah.
Okay,
if you feel you can get the PowerPoint ready in time, and maybe make it the I don't have a calendar in front of me, but maybe
Yeah.
make it the last Wednesday of the month or the last Tuesday, depending upon what's good.
Not
for them.
Tuesday, can't be there Tuesday.
Okay.
so that would be the
Wednesday.
19th or the 26th?
Yeah, either one.
All right, why don't I check in with the powers that be? And that could actually be our next meeting.
Right, particularly if we want to get it on the full ballot. You know, I think it'd be good to start meeting with them and getting that situation under control, so to speak.
Mhm.
Okey-doke. So what I will do is get back to you all whether the 19th or the 26th works best for them.
Okay.
Would
And
you
if
want to
any-
invite the,
I'm
would you want
sorry?
to invite the candidates? And would you want to invite the candidates as well at that point in order, or not until,
I would,
okay?
unless anybody has any objections. I think it's good to get them up to speed because none of them have done it before.
It wouldn't hurt, I don't think.
No, it certainly wouldn't.
I think if we do invite him, we should follow the suggestion that somebody made, I forget who, about giving them the written copy of the draft. So
Yeah.
to not-
Absolutely.
And maybe with a
Yes.
preamble.
Mhm.
to
Well,
talk
maybe with the
to-
PowerPoint presentation
Or,
or,
I mean, basically talk about how we came to be and why we're doing this. I'm fearful of somebody coming in and saying, well, this is nice, but I'd like to change 15 things.
Lowry, could I impose upon you to draft something?
I'll give it a try.
That'd be great. Okey doke. I will get back to you all on the 19th or the 26th.
Okay,
Very good. Thank you, Deb.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
all. Thank you, guys. I think that's, as I say, I think that's a wrap.
okay.
Thank you for everything, Deb, yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it looks wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, guys, so much. Well, all this input is valuable. It doesn't work unless we all participate. So thank you. All righty. So
right.
I'm going to leave.
Bye.
Bye.
All
Bye.
right,
Leaving,
Leaving.
and I can't. Okay. Leaving,
Leaving.
left.